Hello and welcome to Talk from Superheroes. Hey everybody, I'm Andrew Ivemy.
And I'm Diana McCullum.
And you're listening to Talk from Superheroes, where every week we discuss a piece of heroic television or film. And this week on the podcast, we are talking about the continuing, the never-ending, they'll never die.
They're going to live forever.
The Sony Spider-Man Universe, the villain verse. They keep going. They keep making these films. They won't be stopped.
Tell me more about it. I'm going to take a big sip of water.
No, hang on. I've just been passed these papers from the news desk. Oh, it's over. It turns out it says here that
oh shit!
Shut it all down. It actually says it says shut it all down.
But it's been going so well.
It says forget about it.
Sorry.
Sorry. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, they never said sorry.
No,
Yeah.
they might. We got to give them a minute.
We got to give them a minute.
Sometimes you got to give people a minute to look back on their mistakes. Because people apologize for things later. We've gotten apologies for, the Batman Forevers, the Batman and Robins.
Oh, yeah. It could take some time.
We've gotten Green Lantern apologies.
True.
I think we could, down the road, once people know their contracts are up and they're never coming back.
Yeah, let's see how that goes.
Some apologies for what we've had to do specifically. 3 of these goddamn Villainverse movies came out this year.
One thing no one can take away from Sony, they crank them out and they exist. They crank them out and they exist.
They are indeed moving pictures.
They're moving and they're out there.
As described. And they're out there. So yes, this year we did Madam Web, Venom 3, and now Kraven the Hunter.
There are more Sony villain Spider-Man, the SSU, I think they call it, the Sony Spider-Man Universe, the Villainverse. As they colloquially call it, with no Spider-Man. They've done 3 of them. There was 1 Marvel movie this year, and that was kind of a Fox movie with Deadpool
it was Marvel
and Wolverine.
Deadpool. There was no DC movies except for Joker 2.
Yeah,
this was their year. This was their year.
We haven't been eating good in 2024, if I'm being real with you.
Andrew and I earlier today went through our, what would be the best of 2024 list. Pretty short.
It's a little bleak out there.
It's a little bleak out there in the streets.
Yeah, it's a rough one.
Sometimes our jobs are really hard.
Sometimes it is hard. Sometimes we're seeing Kraven the Hunter. But you know what? And I mentioned this about Madam Web. And this might be a bit of a sad state of affairs to say about the state of the industry. But you also got to give Sony this. They're releasing their L's. They're not doing HBO bullshit where it's like we deleted something from existence for a tax credit. They're putting their losses out there. They're saying, hey, look at this. We biffed it. They're telling a generation of young creative people, maybe you could do better. And you know what? I think that there is something good about that in the overall scheme of the world, to not delete bad art for tax credits, but to put it out there and be like, hey, have a look. If you think you could do better, start making stuff on your iPhone. Maybe you'll win an Oscar in 10 or 20 years. Get to it. Go to film school.
No, I sincerely love this take. It is very lovely because I also would rather see Kraven than hear that dozens, if not hundreds of people made a Kraven movie and it never went out in the world.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, that's not what art is for. It's not why we make movies, for tax breaks.
No, we make it to learn. Good or bad, we make it to learn and to experience.
Well, I'm sure the rest of this episode will be just as positive as this lovely talk from Andrew.
Yeah. I take a big sip of my drink.
I am noting we haven't said whether we liked the movie or not yet.
Well, let's do the spoiler-free review. This is a new movie. Whenever we talk about new movies or TV shows, we always give a spoiler-free review in case you're on the fence about seeing it.
You're going to get off that fence so fast, you guys.
But for whatever your reason, your personal reasons might be, we're going to give you a spoiler-free review. Then once you hear the theme music, that is when we will be entering our spoiler-filled section. So let's start with the usual, the spoiler-free review, the simple question. Diana, did you like it?
Oh, no. Kraven, no. Don't do it, Kraven. No, it's very bad. It's very bad. I will start with slight redeeming factors. I actually liked some of the action scenes, and I think Aaron Taylor Johnson's physicality as Kraven is fucking awesome. That's about where the positives end. It is so long. It is so boring. It's filmed in a boring way except for the action scenes. The pacing is terrible. it, I guess, makes sense, but just has no plot to even make sense. We were an hour in. I looked at my watch. We were an hour in. I'm like, what's the plot of this movie? I literally like thought that it's weird to have a thought out loud. I didn't speak out loud, but like, you know, when you have a clear thought in your head of what's the plot of this? And it didn't have one really, except for like people are hunting each other for no particular reasons. I didn't really like anyone. I didn't care. I wanted to leave. I wanted it to be over. But then every now and then, Aaron Taylor Johnson would kill a dude, and I'd be like, that was pretty cool. So thanks for killing some dudes, Aaron Taylor Johnson. That's what we're here for. Could have used more of that. Could have used more of that. That's probably like all. Don't see it. Oh my God! If you're on the fence, don't see this. Andrew, did you like Kraven the Hunter?
I am very much with you. This is a very bad movie, but there is some decent action in here. Like comparing it to some of the other Sony stuff, like Venom. Venom is up or down. We actually have some positives about the Venom films.
I think we gave Venom a fine this year.
Yeah. So Venom can bring some heat, but when we're comparing it to say your Madam Web or your Morbius, I think this movie, its highs are higher, but its lows are lower. So it is a bit more of a ride where Madam Web doesn't, and Morbius didn't even have action scenes. Morbius had a black room where a computer made something close to images fight each other. Madam Web had a fireworks factory where a villain was crushed by a Pepsi logo. This movie does have action sequences that are functional and work, and there's a couple of cool things, and I agree with you on Aaron Taylor Johnson and his physicality and just kind of like the weight and the lean and the way he walks into a room. There is something to this. Like you can tell that this is from the director who did several of the Expendables movies, where it's just like if you need a movie where the plot is like, oh no, he has gun, that's the plot, and then things unfold and there's action sequences. It's pretty competent. And then the writing and the performances are atrocious. It feels like it's written by AI, very similar to Madam Web. It feels like the rehearsals are being filmed.
Ooh, that's a great way to describe this. Yes.
Like things that are really simple to fix, that it's just like
they haven't even gotten the blocking down in some scenes. It's like, I don't think the extra was supposed to stand there.
Yes. Yeah, I think we're both thinking of same one very specifically, where there is a woman who goes, oh, wow, you startled me. And they had been standing next to each other the whole time. And it's like, okay, you didn't block out how he kind of sneaks up or like surprises her. They're both. So it's just shit like that where I'm like, you filmed the rehearsal and everyone's saying stuff and the writing is just terrible.
Yeah, but I will say, yeah, this director absolutely can do action. I don't know if that was his focus or that's what he was hired for. Because, yeah, when you have a movie like Expendables, it's all just like dumb, witty banter, but also those movies are just filled with stars who can just do that all day until it comes to another action sequence.
Yeah.
This movie is like kind of got some stars in it, but they don't interact much.
Yes.
Russell Crowe's barely in it, and Aaron Taylor Johnson, in a way, is barely in it.
I agree with that as well.
And it is hurt for that.
Yes.
It could use way more of him.
Yeah, because when you look at movies like The Expendables as well, and it's like this is the same director. It's like, okay. And it's one of the strength of that is that those are people who, for the Expendables movies, people for all their flaws, for all their moments of brilliance and their big flaws, those are people that for 30 to 50 years have been making movies that an executive on cocaine cranked out, and they have had to do their best to salvage a nonsense script that is a reason to punch someone. So whether or not that is a good or a bad thing for someone's career, that is a team of people who are experts at polishing turds. It is, the Expendables are not so much a fighting team as they are a team of turd polishers at the most experienced.
They've all worked at the turd polishing factory.
Yes.
They've done their time.
Whereas this is younger actors who don't have
They don't know how to make it shine. Because even I would say, I think every Sonyverse movie we've done, all of the highlights have been older actors. Adam Scott and Madam Web, Matt Smith and Morbius. Just actors who can like find the quality in a very bad project.
Yes.
And this movie doesn't quite have that. Even Russell Crowe didn't find it, which I'll get into after the spoiler-free section, which is like pretty rare for Russ.
Oh, Russ.
I've been with Russ a while. I've been on the Russ train, and this is the first time I feel like he fell off the train.
Well, and I do want to just correct one thing that I said. It was the writer of The Expendables, not the director. That is my mistake.
Okay.
That is my mistake. So I want to correct that before anyone asks me.
Wait, let me take a big sip of water, then say it again.
Oh, yeah. It turns out I was wrong. Yes.
That's not as big a one.
And can this movie be spoiled?
No.
No.
Dear God, no.
No.
What, have you seen it? Have you heard of Kraven the Hunter? Maybe you haven't. I literally only know who Kraven the Hunter is because of the animated series, the 90s animated.
And you know what?
I've never read a comic with him in it.
That Kraven does rip.
That Kraven rocks.
The 90s animated series the 90s Spider-Man animated series Kraven does rip.
It's absolutely great.
Well, that is going to do it for the spoiler-free section. Before we get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode, we do want to take a moment to thank one of our sponsors of today's episode. We want to thank our friends over at Mint Mobile.
Thanking our friends at Mint Mobile because you know what? It's the holidays. We're all trying to save money. We're like, oh, what? How can we save?
How and where?
How and where?
How and
We're
where?
going to tell you right now.
We picking up pennies off the ground? What are we doing?
No, we're Canada. Pennies don't exist.
We picking up nickels
You can
off the
still pick
ground?
up nickels?
You could still pick up nickels.
And you know what? If you don't need very many of them for a plan at Mint Mobile. You only need a couple.
You could do both to save money.
You could
pick up nickels, and you could get a plan at Mint Mobile and double down your savings, depending on how you want to live your life.
Or if you got to save some time, maybe just the Mint Mobile part. It's going to be faster.
Yes.
It's going to be faster and easier than just collecting nickels.
Yes, because right now, all 3-month plans are only $15 a month, including the unlimited plan. You can just go to mintmobile.com/TFS. You will see everything there. All their plans have high-speed data, unlimited talk and text delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. You can use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan, so you can bring along your phone number, make the switch nice and smooth and easy, because saving money doesn't need to be that complicated.
Saving money doesn't need to be complicated, and also, like, their website is super straightforward. It's here's the plans, here's what they are, no fine print, no tricks, no hoops. It's just straightforward and easy. You don't have a lot of time in your day. You want to save money fast and easily. You're going to go to mintmobile.com.
It's not like you have to do a trade-in and only if you get this brand name phone, or you got to make sure.
Keep your phone.
Only people who can do backflips. No, you cannot do a backflip.
You can just stand there or even sit at your computer.
Yeah.
Get a new great phone plan.
Whatever your level of physicality be, or your nickel collection may or may not be, you can get a plan at Mint Mobile. So to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/TFS. That is mintmobile.com/TFS. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/TFS. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you, Mint Mobile, for your support.
Thank you so much, Mint Mobile.
And now, let's get into the spoiler-filled section of the episode. Let's talk more about Kraven. All right, we are now into the spoiler-filled section to talk more about Kraven, a movie that does not work.
A movie that does not work. A fitting end to the villain-verse?
Yeah.
It's just, it definitely, he sat there and he was like, I did it. And we're all like, let's go home.
Yeah.
He got his big vest. He sat in his big chair.
And there was no post-credit or after-credit. We just got to leave. There was no time. They had to shut it all down.
We didn't have time to film it.
There was just no time.
Well, I actually I'm not going to lie. Right off the top, I'm going to say I'm really disappointed there's not an after-credit, because that to me is the most fun thing of a thing being over, but them not admitting something's over.
Yeah.
If there was, like, the way Venom 3 had, like, the Null after credit scene of, like, you're definitely gonna see Null again.
And it's like, Tom Hardy's not doing Venom 4. Sony might not exist in a month. What are we doing here?
So I respect the lack of after credit scene of them being like, no, it's over, go home. You don't even have to stay for the end of this movie. You can just leave. But I also really wanted, like, a very dumb, oh shit, the Vulture's here, or something. Like, get Michael Keaton one more time.
The fact that they got him before, I don't think Michael knew what was going on.
Absolutely. I don't think he was in the same room as Jared Leto. I don't think he had any clue. I think they were like, we're going to give you $100,000 to say 3 lines of dialogue. He's like, yeah, sure, of course.
Because at that time, when it was like, well, Spider-Man's on loan from Sony to Marvel, and he's kind of there, but the Sony movies aren't connected, but they kind of are. And remember having to explain that, that holidays at family gatherings?
Yeah, I've explained it.
I feel like Michael Keaton had that level of knowledge that he was like, I don't know, my nephew said these aren't the same ones. Is that true? But they're already filming that tag in Morbius when he was doing that.
Michael Keaton, I feel like isn't even sure that Batman's separate. Mm-hmm. Because Batman because he did The Flash recently in recent years, and that's all multiverse shit. I think Michael Keaton. I don't think Michael Keaton's dumb. I think he doesn't care. I think he's a very smart man who could understand it, but I feel like he is also just like, they give me scripts and I show up.
They keep telling me to play birds, and I'm here.
I'm a vulture, I'm a Batman, I'm a Birdman.
I played Batman, Vulture, Birdman, and then they asked me to play Batman again, and I did. And then they were like, can you come back for Vulture one more time? I'm sure, I'm a bird.
But now I'm Beetlejuice, so it's over.
It's over.
I'm Beetlejuice again.
Unless they write a scene in that movie where Beetlejuice transforms into a bird or something.
That's really doable.
That is easily doable.
Beetlejuice the bird.
Keaton will be a bird.
He'll always be a bird.
He'll always be a bird. So
anyway, Kraven.
Kraven the Hunter. I will say, so this movie has been getting panned. When we went to see it, it was a 7% on Rotten Tomatoes. Everyone was like, it's worse than Madam Web. I don't know if that's true because of a handful of good action scenes, but there are moments where it's worse. It starts in a way that I actually thought was pretty tolerable. I was like, oh, is everyone wrong? Because it opens on this prison sequence where it is Kraven the Hunter allowing himself to be arrested and go to prison because there's someone in there he's trying to hunt and kill.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And I completely agree. I feel like this has happened with a few movies that we've watched where wow, Act 1 or the opening action was great and the rest of the movie is pretty bad. But yeah, I completely agree. This opening sequence, it absolutely ruled. It was great kills. It was a nice slow tension buildup of how strong is he going to be? What are his power levels going to do? What's he even here for? He had fun banter with his little roommate when he gets in there. He's 3 days tops and then you can take a shot. He's like, all right, fine. Can I sit with you at lunch? He actually was charming and fun. He beats up the guys in the gym outside, and then he kills the guys. And he does this great escape out into the thing. I'm like, oh shit, no, they must be wrong. And then after that sequence, this movie is bad again until maybe the helicopter chase. And that's probably...
And even then, it's maybe, yeah.
I liked the helicopter chase. Right. But the rest is just there's... every now and then when he kills a guy, it's cool.
Yeah.
But the rest of the movie is just intolerable. It's just boring as hell.
Intolerable. It doesn't feel written or finished. They don't seem to even know why movie is. And
it is really just shots of things. And people sure are around.
Yes, because after this opening Russian prison murder escape sequence, which maybe I didn't like it quite as much as you, but I thought it was pretty good. I was like, oh, this is actually I'm going to have a fine time at this movie. It's not going to be one of my best of 2024, but I'm going to have a fine time. And then after this sequence, it cuts to, 15 years ago or whatever?
16 years ago.
16 years ago. And they're like, here's Kraven as a kid with his brother. And I'm like, the movie has already started. I don't care now. I don't care. I've seen his power level. I don't need to... they tried to sneak an origin story movie flashback in here, and it lasts way too long. It's 30 minutes to the point where I'm like, this is a separate movie called Young Kraven. This isn't even a movie starring Aaron Taylor Johnson at this point. It's way too much of these kids.
The flashback is way too long. The kids aren't super interesting. What Russell Crowe's putting them through isn't super interesting. If Russell Crowe was only in the flashbacks, I'd understand why you had to keep them because you can't cut Russell Crowe out of a movie. Yeah. But he also exists in modern day. So you could have cut literally every flashback because I completely agree. As soon as we see his power level, I don't give a shit about his origin story. Give me MCU Spider-Man. We never see how he got his powers.
Yeah.
And I don't care. If he just wants to have a throwaway line of yeah, I got attacked by a lion once. I'm like, cool. I'm done.
Even then, when he meets Calypso later, which is all very forced, and we'll get into that, he's just like, yeah, that juice you gave me or whatever, I think gave me some kind of hunter powers. Done.
She has no...
Done.
But also she has no idea. So why did... The flashback doesn't tell you anything because no one knows how it even happened.
No. And even the flashback doesn't know. So it's like they're kids. They go on a hunt. Russell Crowe is their dad. And Russell Crowe's like, your mom's dead. She committed suicide. Don't worry about it. Let's go on a hunt. It's all exposition. And then, like, everyone's reacting like it's relationship building, but there's no relationships where it's just like, you're in school. Now you're in my car. Your mom died. And now we are going hunting. It is both of you. We don't really get along a lot. I'd like you to be more manly men. Can you be more manly men? We're hunting now. And just a lot of saying what's happening.
Yeah, they managed to find a way because the movie, usually a movie like this is like, Russell Crowe was a very distant father. And the fact that there's no relationship, like, shows that. He doesn't care about us and there's a distance there. But that movie isn't even saying that because he constantly is like, I'd love for you to take over my business. I think, you could be you're my son and I love you and I just want you to be strong. I'm like, so he's reaching out constantly, but it still feels like there is no relationship or care or interest between any of the characters.
And he is a present father.
He is
because like
quite present.
even he is like, you haven't seen your mom in 2 years. I'm around all the time because I love you boys. And it's like, yeah, he's
and I'm trying to shape you into me.
Yeah, like he's a toxic man, but he's a present dad.
I mean, even in the modern day when we meet him, he like works in the same club his son owns. Like his son owns that club that gets shot up.
Yeah, and it's been like, I love that his impersonation of Tony Bennett, like, is kind of supportive.
Yeah, he was never going to let him like run the business, but that seemed more because he was like his illegitimate son than it was that he was like a coward or didn't like him.
Yeah.
So the movie didn't really understand what these relationships were or display them in any interesting way.
Yeah.
Anyway, and then he gets attacked by a lion.
And then young Kraven gets attacked by a lion, just murdered by a lion. Let's be fair. It's the biggest lion you've ever seen.
They're hunting it because it's a legendary, huge lion. He's absolutely gigantic. Kraven is not Kraven yet. He is a 16-year-old boy who is as big as you expect a 16-year-old boy to be. He puts his gun down because him and the lion have some kind of moment, but then his dad shoots the lion and he's mad, so then he attacks Kraven. And like one rip of the claws and you're toast.
Yes. Yeah, and this also feels like a lot of this was reshot and redone because it was all filmed by committee because the lion is clawing the shit out of Kraven. And his clothes are all ripped up with like those straight Wolverine-style claw marks all across it and covered in blood to be like, yeah, he's been clawed to shit. He's all clawed up. And then later, there's like a little bit later, there's a scene in the hospital where they're trying to like bring him back and they're doing compressions and they're shocking him. And there's clearly 3 bullet wounds.
I also noticed the bullet wounds.
So he had no claw marks. It was clearly 3 bullet wounds in his chest. And they're like, we lost him. And then he's just alive, but not even in the same scene. Like that, you hear the sound of the heartbeat monitor start, but none of the doctors react. And then it's a different day where the doctors are like, you're alive now.
You could see the heartbeat monitors and the number didn't change on the heartbeat. Like the little sound changed, but like I was looking at it, I'm like, so how many beats per second? And it still said 0.
And none of the doctors reacted to a man coming back to life. So I'm like, so this has all been completely changed because some
originally
classic Sony, like Madam Web and Morbius, this has been made by committee and it's all been reshot and 80 yard later to completely change the plot.
Yeah, Russell Crowe absolutely shot his son in the original of this. When he was trying to shoot a lion, he shot his son. Is absolutely what originally happened, and I guess they didn't want to show that.
Yes.
Or didn't think it was as interesting.
Or test audiences didn't like it, or an executive didn't.
Whenever I see a movie that's bad and has had changes, I'm like, how bad could the original have been?
Yeah, there's no way.
Like a change that doesn't improve anything, I'm always so... Did you need to like put in your little Gladiator ripoff moments? Is that what you had to edit in? The Gladiator ripoff moments made me laugh so hard.
To be like, you can't have the Gladiator in this movie and do a Gladiator ripoff moment.
No, Russell Crowe, unless it was his idea, unless Russell Crowe's like, you know what we did in Gladiator?
Have my son put his hand through the reeds in kind of a mystical realm.
People loved that.
People loved the mystical realm where the hand went through the reeds.
I mean, in the very first kill, Kraven, it's revealed after Kraven like kneels down right before he does his first kill, and I was like, oh my god, is he gonna like run dust through his hands? And then the camera pans down, and there's like a lion skin rug on the ground, and he actually wants to like touch the lion skin. I'm like, oh, okay, never mind. He's not full gladiatoring.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Also, but here's the thing, Russell Crowe's in this. Also, the brother is the Emperor in Gladiator 2.
Yeah.
There's two gladiators in this
gladiators
movie.
in here. Yeah, you can't do
Big
a
year for
fantasy
that guy.
run. You're big year for that guy playing wimpy dweebs.
Oh, what a typecasting.
I know, it sucks that that's your typecasting.
He's such a sad sack, though.
Yeah, to be like, cast this boy as a sad sack, because that's
he's-
what he is.
Cast him as the brother who needs to be taken care of in multiple blockbusters.
In many ways.
Who needs to be cared for.
This little bean of a dweeb.
I am going to compliment the casting director, though.
Oh, tell me more.
For the dweeb brother, at the very least. I found that, like, kid and adult were crazy matched.
Visually, they match these kids with the adults pretty well.
Yeah. Which is like, that's a skill.
That's something.
That can be really hard.
That's something. To piggyback off of that to another negative just right away.
Of course. What else would we talk about?
They did not match the kids and adults in regards to accents, and also all of the accents are all over the fucking place in this movie.
Now,
It's baffling.
hear me out. The accents are all over the place, and I don't give anyone credit for like work or like doing anything on purpose or being like, oh no, I think it's purposeful. I will actually forgive all of these bad accents because literally, I think it's just like Calypso and the two brothers. Literally, they have established that these people were raised in different places throughout their entire childhoods because the school they're picked up from is in New York. But they already know Russian, so they also speak Russian because their mom's Russian. And then they move to London. So the fact that they have this weird, like, we're not really from anywhere and our voice keeps changing accents, I actually kind of understand why they would sound that way.
Okay.
It kind of gives you this, like, it's weird. This is a weird example. John Barrowman's the best I can talk of. He's, like, from Scotland, but he's also from America. And he, like, just kind of, like, code switches wherever he is.
Yeah.
And I just kind of feel like a little bit like that's what these characters are doing.
While I think that canonically what you're saying makes sense, it looks more like a bunch of actors failing and struggling.
I know. I'm giving them a lot of credit.
Yeah.
But I only give them the credit because as I couldn't understand which accent Aaron Taylor Johnson was going for, I actually was like, but what should he be going for? They've established he has 3 different countries of origin.
Any one of the 3.
Any choice.
One of
Any
a
one
single lane. A single lane would be one of them. When he's talking to his brother and he's just like, our dad's a mobster, and that's why we got to take him down because I am the hunter. And the hunter is not a myth. Sometimes people think it's a myth, but it's not a myth. It's not a myth. And it's,
You are nailing the lack of choices that Aaron Taylor Johnson made in this role.
and it reaches a point where I'm like, someone give him a line read. Someone fucking help this man through the woods. He's struggling so much.
I also feel like the girl playing Calypso did the same thing. Though,
Yes,
'cause
she certainly did.
She also established, oddly enough, that she went to school in New York and then moved to London.
Yeah.
Which is a crazy thing to also do, to not be like, we were school friends in New York first.
Yep. It feels very, and it's just such a Sony keeps doing this bullshit thing. A paint by committee, we allowed algorithms, focus testing, and AI to decide the things. To be like, well, it's cheaper to film in London, so we need London, and the young versions of the actors will be Londoners, and they're gonna do their best to match Aaron Taylor Johnson's London American Russian, but they're really just up shit's creek because it's cheaper to film in London, but also all of our things say that our heroes have to be American. America is what sells. So Aaron Taylor Johnson has to be American, even though he's British and his dad's Russian. He has to be. So write in that he's American. So we'll write a scene that he's American, but we film in London for the tax credits, and his dad is Russian because of the comic books. And then surely everyone's going to be happy. And it's like, no, because at no point were any of these decisions artistic. These decisions were made based on where was cheapest to film and where could you get no-name actors from and who was a hot star and who buys most and what region buys the most tickets.
This is all absolutely true. And this movie's really bad. Here's the thing about Rotten Tomatoes. This will make sense in a second. Here's the thing about Rotten Tomatoes. If something has a 7%, that doesn't mean it's 7% good and people gave it a 7%. It means 7% of the people who saw the movie thought it was good. It's a pass-fail on Rotten Tomatoes is how it works. So when a movie is this bad, I'm often like, who was the 7%? Like, who are the people who saw this bad movie?
And they were like, this is it.
This is it. And there's some Russian kid who was raised in New York and then moved to London who fucking loved this. This spoke to 7% of the critics, who maybe only is one person, because I think it was less than 100 reviews when I saw the number. So there could just be that one person who's like, no, they nailed the experience of being a Russian who was raised in New York and moved to London.
And even then, to get 7%, it just means that it's positive in any way.
It doesn't mean it's good.
It could have been that one person who's like, this is an adequate job of portraying being a Russian kid raised in New York, living in London. Like, adequate could have been the word in the review that really did all this.
Yeah. We found every place people can be white, and we set our character there.
That's
we
it.
loved that.
That's it.
The Sonyverse, everybody.
It's definitely not inaccessible. Don't worry about it.
Except he gets his powers in Africa. In a fun fever dream. Whoa!
Woof.
The fever dream when he got
the stock
his power.
footage fever dream.
The stock footage fever dream, insult your intelligence, here's all the shots you just saw in the fever. When there's shots I just saw in a dream, I'm so mad.
Some of the flashbacks are the things we saw 1 minute ago in the movie.
The lion blood dripping into his wounds, being shown over and over. Andrew is in so much pain, you guys. That sound you heard was his forehead hitting the microphone. The lion blood drip was not a good enough shot to use as many times as they did.
I need to go off here.
Oh, okay.
I need to go off on the number of plot devices that they couldn't decide on, that every executive was like, well, I don't get it. And so they added another thing but didn't delete the previous thing. To get his powers, air quote, because Kraven has some powers that are very never defined in this movie. To get his powers, he's attacked by a lion, and Calypso, who is in Africa because her grandmother's in Africa, who reads tarot cards, who has one scene, but her parents are on safari, and clearly all of it is green screen reshoots, and none of these people have ever met or been anywhere near one another. It's so maddening. At one point, they are on a Jeep on the plains, and Calypso's in the back seat, and the dad's like, are you having fun? She's like, uh-huh. And then the dad turns his head, and then she runs off, and he turns back, and she's nowhere to be seen, even though
no bushes, no trees.
There's nothing in sight. It is a plain.
It is a flat desert, and they're there with binoculars to see things that are far away, and they lost their daughter.
The
Jeep's not moving, everybody.
The Jeep's not moving.
The Jeep is paused.
And we never see these two again.
No, they just left their daughter, I guess.
Yeah. Well,
she's not even there when the helicopter takes off with the EMTs and stuff.
They're not even in the same shot as her. I think these are two people cast later to play her parents. And her grandmother in a different scene, giving her tarot cards, and then also the Black Panther flower juice.
I was thinking the Captain America Super Soldier Serum, but I guess the Black Panther flower juice also makes a lot of sense.
I was thinking more of the power of the Panther.
No, that makes more sense.
So her grandmother is like, here's some tarot cards and Black Panther juice. Carry this around for when you want. And then she wanders off from her parents on a safari, finds a man torn asunder by the biggest fucking lion that's ever existed. I guess pours the magic juice into his mouth, which we don't even see.
No, she did it.
We see it?
Yeah, she did that.
Oh, I didn't catch it. Okay.
She did that shit.
And then the lion also bleeds his blood into Kraven's blood.
Yeah.
And then Kraven dies of gunshots in a hospital. And then he wakes up and no doctors react. And then he has Kraven powers. Also, before he becomes Kraven, he seems to have the ability already to commune with animals like Aquaman.
That's what was so fucked up. Why was he already talking to that lion?
So he already had mutant abilities. Then he got clawed by a lion. Then he got lion blood.
Yeah, he got lion blooded.
Then he got the Black Panther juice. Then he died of gunshots. Then he wakes up and he's Kraven, and none of it makes a lick of sense.
I'm going to go even further to how much it doesn't make sense. And I'm going to go into kind of tropes I think happen a lot that don't make sense when you have animal-related, kind of like the Crow-esque things going on.
It is very Crow-esque,
It is very Crow-esque. But here's the thing about the Crow. The Crow just talks to crows.
He at least locks in.
He locks in. Kraven got lion blood. And if he even just talked just to cats or something, I'd be like, well, lions are cats. But the first thing we see him do is talk to a hawk.
I think wolf first.
No,
wolf?
that was in the future, though.
Oh, that was in the future.
That was in the future. He was already an adult.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I'm thinking of, you know what? When you said first, I was assuming my human time wasted in this theater.
I'm going chronologically through Kraven's life.
Thank you.
As I should.
You are fair. It is Hawk.
It is Hawk. So he gets the powers. He wakes up in his bedroom, and there's a hawk at his window, and it's like, hey, you should, like, fucking leave. And I'm like, why can you talk to a hawk?
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense. Then he goes to, like, Russia on the planes, and there's, like, a bunch
Why does the hawk have an opinion on your fucking life?
Why does the hawk know what's going on with you? Animals aren't this smart. That's the thing. I think animals are super cool, and I think they're pretty smart.
Yeah, a bunch of birds are making him a dress for the ball. I don't know what the fuck is happening here.
When he goes to the Russian plains and the buffalo don't hit him, I'm like, and it's like the movie is like, oh, it's because he can like talk to the buffalo. I'm like, it's because one buffalo stopped in front of him, and buffalo also just don't hit everything. They go around trees as well.
They move around things.
They see things in front of them and they don't hit them. They're not idiots. I'm not saying he doesn't have powers, but
because later I think he mentally controls that herd.
He does mentally control that
and
herd.
use them as a weapon.
But I'm gonna say you can't give someone lion blood and then be like every animal.
Yeah,
that's bullshit.
Yeah, it's bad.
Mad about it.
You should be.
I'm mad.
You should be.
This movie's over 2 hours long, you guys.
They didn't need to. They could have cut all the young Kraven stuff.
Oh, all the young Kraven stuff.
Yeah, they could have make it at the very least. Morbius and Madam Web had the respect of being 90 minutes.
No, Madam Web was 2 hours.
You know what? Burn it all down.
Yeah. No, remember we were very mad about that.
Well, you know what?
Venom is short.
Venom
never let us down. Venom never crossed a 2 hour mark.
Bless your heart, Venom.
Bless you, Venom.
Bless you, Venom.
Make Venom 4.
You know what? Now that I think about it, make Venom 4.
Make Venom 4.
Well, let's take a quick break to thank one of our other sponsors of today's episode. I want to thank our friends over at HelloFresh, who get us farm fresh, pre-portioned ingredients and seasonal recipes delivered right to our doorstep, which has been fantastic during this busy holiday season when we've all got just too much going on. Frankly, November and the first several weeks of December, I don't even really know what happened. I blinked and they were over.
It's insane how busy it is and how helpful it is to have HelloFresh because, first of all, you don't have to go to the grocery store because your food gets delivered right to your door. But also, like, I'm so busy, I don't have time to meal prep. I can't even think about what I'm going to cook all week. But they're like, here's 50 chef-crafted recipes to choose from every week. You go through, you pick them, they're going to be at your door, all pre-portioned ingredients. Oh, thank God. Every time I open the fridge and the HelloFresh is in there waiting for me, the relief that cascades down my body of like, I know what I'm making tonight and it's going to be delicious and I know I have every single ingredient and I don't have to go to the grocery store for anything. It makes me feel so good.
And you get to cook and like eat fresh and feel good as well. Like you're not just kind of like cramming fast food while running between holiday events as well and getting sleepy because of all the terrible food you've been eating. No, HelloFresh is like helping you kind of have these nice nights at home where you're cooking and kind of enjoying a bit of time off if you're lucky enough to have that during the holiday season.
Yeah, it makes it feel more holiday-ish to be like, oh, I'm cooking a full, robust meal for my family or myself. It's wonderful. And also, just like for other foods, there's over 100 add-on items you can add to your weekly box, like quick breakfast, packable snacks, beverages, and more. So it's not just full, complete meals. You can get all your food from HelloFresh.
And personally, I've been having a really good time because I am a vegetarian and they are able to cater and work with that and also just kind of explore my boundaries as to what I'm cooking with as well because I know that myself and a lot of other vegetarians, we can get into a funk of like, here are the 3 things that we know.
Another pasta, another salad.
And I'm very happy with HelloFresh helping me expand what I've got going on a little bit.
It is nice as someone who also cooks for you. And I was like, what am I going to make them?
What do we do?
What do we do? I can't have salad again.
Let's expand these 3 things. So thank you, HelloFresh. I really enjoy you. And you can enjoy them as well. Get 10 free meals at HelloFresh.com/freetfs. Applied across 7 boxes. New subscribers only. Varies by plan. That's 10 free HelloFresh meals. Just go to HelloFresh.com/freetfs. And thank you, HelloFresh, America's #1 meal kit. Thank you for your support and for your wonderful meals.
Thank you so much, HelloFresh.
And now back into Kraven. Let's talk a little more about Kraven.
We're going to talk about Kraven. Let's do a positive. We've already touched on this briefly. I do think Aaron Taylor Johnson's physicality is incredible.
I agree.
It is, he feels fluid and weightless, but also incredibly strong. He feels like he's like not just on wires all the time. He feels like he's really there. A lot of it's very practical. The way he slides around and like just moves so gracefully. I think he actually worked really hard and pulled off a really great superhero practical performance.
Yeah, he feels like a UFC fighter where I'm like, you're heavy light. Like somehow I'm like, you're dense and muscular and you feel like you have fuck around and find out weight, but also you kind of move lithe and like a predator, frankly. Like it is.
Yeah, he can choose to land really heavy if he wants to like hurt someone, but he also lands like a cat, like how cats can just kind of be like, I'm so strong, but I'll land like, swoop.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think, I agree. He does a really good job of the physicality and just shredded. He looks fucking great too. He's in great shape physically.
They really did. I will give it to them that I love an unforced shirtless scene.
Unprompted. Like there was no reason.
There was no reason. He got out of the Russian frozen tundra onto a plane, and the first thing he did was take off every layer of clothing like he was hot.
He took his shirt off and then just sat in a cold cargo plane.
That was flying out of Russia in the middle of winter.
But he looks absolutely ripped.
Oh, he looks incredible.
The final shot of the throne with the fur vest or whatever looks absolutely great.
Looks absolutely ripped. So yeah, I feel bad that this movie is so bad because, I mean, he didn't do any accent work, but he did some ab work.
Yes, he definitely did ab work.
He did some ab work.
Even just like some of the like movement stuff, like when he's like sneaking around, there are times where he's doing ironically what are Spider-Man push-ups, but just the like he's on his fingertips and like knee to his chest kind of military crawling, but while in a push-up position and it's just
he makes it look effortless.
He does make it look effortless.
I believe he has superpowers.
Yeah.
More so than most heroes I see.
Yeah. And then I think even just outside of that, just like the small physical performance things, even outside of like fight sequences or shirtless scenes, even just like the way he walks into a room and sits in a chair, he kind of carries himself in a way that has that kind of like heavy strength and explosivity where it does feel like he has embodied this character in quite a few different kinds of ways.
He was very captivating. Every time he'd walk into a room, you're just like, oh man, I can't not look at him. He looks strong. He looks powerful. He looks confident. He looks like if you pushed him, he wouldn't even budge a little. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. So I agree with you that I really like that.
Yeah, but the script gave him nothing to work with. But
absolutely nothing.
He worked really, really hard. The action scenes are good. He's there for all of them. I think he even got dragged by that helicopter netting a little bit. Half of it looked practical and half of it looked CG.
Yeah, some of the car roof chase sequence as well,
sure,
where I'm like, oh yeah, you've actually put in some hours on filming this, both him personally and just the filmmakers. It was like, oh, you actually put some work in on this, of this car chase sequence and the helicopter sequence.
So kudos to him for that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing I haven't checked. I feel weird when I come up with questions mid episode, but I think this was supposed to be R. Was it still R?
It was still R.
It was still R.
But it feels like they didn't use it enough because that final sequence has it.
That final sequence, I was like, that was the moment where I was like, wait, is this R?
Yeah.
When like one guy gets literally ripped in two, and that was crazy. But then like before that, there had been nothing even close to an R-rated fight scene. And then just all of a sudden, like he's going after the guys in the jungle who kidnapped his brother. And it's like, oh shit. He's going after these guys. Bear trap to the head, torn asunder around a tree root. That one was crazy.
It felt like a horror movie. Yeah. Like I was like, this feels really good.
Yeah, if the movie was all this, I'd be terrified.
It's interesting at the very least. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
A little too Home Alone-esque a few times.
I can get that.
The big spiky log was too, like, I'm like, you didn't do that today. Why did you have Home Alone-esque traps?
Well, this is his forest.
I guess, but like an animal could set that off as easily as a hunter.
Maybe.
You could just kill a buffalo with that big old log.
Maybe he could. He would use the meat though. He wouldn't just take the horns like these assholes.
Oh man, he didn't save any buffalo.
He never did.
He twice failed to save like 18 to 20 buffalo.
There's some structural stuff about the whole buffalo saving. At one point, it's like him looking through binoculars, or I think just using his supervision.
Just supervision.
And it's like, oh, there's a truck over there that just killed all of them and took the horns and have left. And then it just kind of cuts to him. He's covered the distance, and he's now in this sea of corpses that have been left behind with the horns taken off. And there's two dudes who are like, do you got a problem? And pull a gun on him. And I'm like, who are these two guys? The trucks have left.
There's no cars left. You've already collected all the horns. Are you actually, maybe they were going to use the meat. Maybe they were coming back for meat.
It just feels dumb that it was like, well, the trucks left, and then they left two guys behind to threaten someone they didn't know was here. Like, just so much of this movie, I'm like, there's scenes missing, or it doesn't make sense, or I don't know what the hell is happening.
Even the second buffalo kill, it's like he obviously realized the buffalo had been being slaughtered, and then he was like, I'm going to casually go to the exit and wait, instead of maybe trying to save some of the buffalo before they get slaughtered.
Yeah.
So,
all pretty messy.
A little bit messy.
Yeah. This movie has like 5 villains. There's too much going on with the fucking villains.
I've never even heard of The Foreigner. Had to look him up. Well, this is another thing about that's so annoying about all the backstory on Kraven, is these two villains also have superpowers? No origin stories whatsoever.
No.
So you could have just been like, here's Kraven, he's got superpowers.
Yeah.
And then also the villains have superpowers. Don't worry about it.
Yep.
But instead, they were like, "Wow, you don't need to know why the villains have superpowers."
No, they're just here, and we don't even need to really establish what they are or why. One dude, it's like mind control, time slow, whatever. It's him. He's the Foreigner. You know him.
Because the Foreigner, I had to look him up from the comics. He does not have superpowers. He has mild hypnosis, the way that like real life hypnotists have hypnosis. Like it's not listed as a superpower, but he is a good fighter.
Yeah.
And maybe he wears glasses. I didn't get to that part of the wiki.
And then aside from him, we also have Rhino, obviously.
What a loser. This guy sucked.
The Rhino sucks.
This guy fucking sucks.
In every way.
Performance, writing.
Performance, it's like, this is one of the worst voices and accents of the movie, where I'm just like, this is, what was Malkovich's character in Round, like Johnny Russian. Like, this is just I don't even know how to process what voice he's doing.
Oh, I was thinking more the bad guy in Madam Web, so it felt very Sonyverse of whoever that evil Spider-Man was, about how all his lines were ADR'd and like none of them were on set.
Yeah. Yeah, but he was doing Russian that sounded South African, was kind of what he was doing. Where
I didn't think he was doing any accent, was he?
Oh, yeah, he's an American dude. And he was doing the, like, it's me, Kraven, I am coming for you. You are the one that it is that I come for.
I just thought he was being a nerd.
He just
I didn't think
sucks.
he was doing an accent.
I don't know what it was.
Okay. Yeah, he just sucks. And the funniest thing to me that they did with him, I mean, this was very funny at the very end. So if you haven't seen Kraven, I'm jealous. But I will describe the Rhino is constantly not rhinoing out. He has to like unplug himself.
It's a reverse Bane.
It is a reverse Bane.
It's a reverse Bane.
If Bane was a little nerd...
If you're familiar with the comic book character Bane.
If Bane was a little nerd whenever he wasn't venomed up.
Yeah.
So he just... Twice we see him turn a little gray, and he's like, I get really strong. It's like, cool. And he explains that he went under a procedure to give him 10 times human strength. And that's all they tell us, but he's called the Rhino. So then at the end, when he goes full Rhino, he has a horn. It's like, where did that come from?
And also,
you were a human with hard skin the other scenes, and then all of a sudden there's a giant horn on your head.
And it's yet another example of the movie doesn't know because it cuts away. It doesn't give you a full werewolf transformation. He's like, oh, my skin's a little gray. And then it just cuts to like...
full CG Rhino.
Yeah, it cuts to Aaron Taylor Johnson as Kraven just kind of looking slightly into the distance as a director tells him something. And then it cuts back to Rhino being... And Rhino also looks like shit.
He looks pretty bad.
It really... Even as a Rhino, he looks like a dweeb.
Yeah, he didn't look like a cool Rhino. Like, no. I would rather have Paul Giamatti in a mech suit. I am more scared of Paul Giamatti in a mech suit.
1,000% would kill for Paul Giamatti in a mech suit. Yes.
How could they not get Paul Giamatti back?
Paul Giamatti verse.
He was owed a villain verse.
I would love it. It just sucks. The accent sucks. The look sucks. Everything from a character design standpoint. The fact, on top of that, like the fact that he is the Rhino. He is a dweeb. He is a nerd. We get him in the flashbacks randomly. This need to he has to be there. Like everyone feels like they're on cocaine when they made this movie.
And he was also from New York and then moved to London. And he did move to London.
And he's an American actor doing a South African accent from Russia who lives in London. It makes no sense. From a character design standpoint, the fact that he has this dumb little backpack, the reverse Baning, he's like, at any given time, I'm trying to transform into the Rhino, and I have a feed bag going into an IV that keeps me from rhinoing and keeps me as a normal human. So now not only does he look like Bruce Banner, he looks like Bruce Banner with a really dumb little backpack. Mm-hmm. And there's just no reason for the little backpack. You easily could have had him be like, I can transform into the Rhino at any time. There's no significance to the little backpack, or the drugs don't become a big thing or a plot point or a MacGuffin.
And it feels like it should, because the brother's been kidnapped and he finds out about the drugs and he knows how the Rhino process works. So it's like, oh, okay, so he's going to, in the final fight, be like, Kraven, the drugs make him un-Rhino or something. He's got insider knowledge. We'll use it. That's how movies work. That's what plots are. But totally irrelevant. That it gives him like a little port that Kraven can stab.
But he could have just stabbed.
He could have just stabbed.
He could have just stabbed really good.
He could have gone for an eye. The eye also looked really squishy. The eye's
It's
always
also a normal
squishy.
eye. It's also a normal eye.
Yeah, you didn't need any of this. Or it could have just been like, it could have looked cool, like Bane.
Yeah.
Why didn't it just look cool?
Yeah. It's just it is just like an executive came into the room and was like, what if Bruce Banner had a little backpack? It's like, why you're coming in and making everything worse. For no particular, you've gone out of your way to add a bunch of elements that make everything shittier and worse. Mm-hmm. Let's talk Chameleon.
Oh, good. That was my next point to talk about.
You take the lead on Chameleon.
So Chameleon is Kraven's brother, and he eventually becomes the Chameleon off screen. But throughout the movie, a
comic book character who has the ability to shapeshift or sometimes it's like a special technological belt that makes you look like other people. He can take others' identities.
Yeah, it's one of those pretty straightforward Spider-Man villains. It's what's on the tin. You're getting a chameleon. So throughout the movie, they've established, even before he gets superpowers, he is awesome at impersonations. He is like Russ Marquand level of. Were you about to look up Ross Marquand?
Yeah.
I had it ready.
Yeah.
Ross Marquand was Aaron on The Walking Dead. He did the Red Skull voice match in Endgame when Hugo Weaving didn't come back. He's an incredible impersonator. So his brother is that level or more, because he can also impersonate singers and do a perfect Ed Sheeran and a perfect Tony Bennett. So he's got this crazy voice ability, and they bring it up 8 or 9 times in this movie. His brother is kidnapped for the entire second half of this film. Like genuinely, not like a trick, not like a double cross. He's genuinely kidnapped.
At one point does an impersonation of the main villain in front of the main villain. Uh-huh. So the main villain's like, here's my special juice that calms me down and makes me un-Rhino. Also, wow, you can do an exact impersonation of me. Several things getting set up in one scene.
Except they're not, because literally he never uses this ability to help in any way. He is kidnapped for a full hour and at no point is ever like, oh, it's me, the Rhino. Let Dimitri go. How easy would that be to just yell something out in the voice of your kidnappers, or be like, yes, it's me, Russell Crowe. I'll give you 20 million. Just let Dimitri go. Try so many ways to let Dimitri go, Dimitri. What are you thinking? And then at the very end, it's just like, oh yeah, off screen, I went to a doctor and he made me a full physical chameleon now.
I look like an alien in between transforming my face.
I look like Morph in X-Men 97 in his default form.
Yes, and that's also what Chameleon in the comics looks like.
It does, but it's out of nowhere. Kraven's a regular dude who's strong.
Yeah.
This foreigner guy is a guy with sunglasses who can make make your mind a little weird. And then all of a sudden, the full alien-looking chameleon is here, and it's been done off-screen. And like he wasn't even evil. I'm not even sure if it's him, if it's another chameleon who's taken over Dimitri's body now. That might be a fun twist.
Guess
We'll
that could
never
be a
know.
thing. We'll never know. We'll never know.
The universe is over. But I was absolutely furious when this guy was kidnapped for so long and never once used the chameleon. Yeah, at one point he was like running through the woods. That's a great time to do a chameleon voice.
Yeah.
To be like, it's me, the rhino. No.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
He does it so much better than me.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. Yeah. The one we're chasing for is over to the west. Go west, everyone.
we just saw him to the west, and then you run east.
And then, or whatever the fuck. There's so many ways you could write it in there.
And it's not used at any point except to be like, Russell Crowe's like, I love Tony Bennett.
And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
God.
See, the thing that I hate most about it, and which you touched on for a moment with the Ross Marquand, that it's like, hire someone who can do impersonations.
Oh, because they're just ADRing the voices.
Yeah, and poorly. And doing it poorly. Because this actor is actually, I think, a pretty good actor who...
He is good.
I would actually say he's owning his character kind of better than most in this movie. He's doing a pretty good job of owning it. But obviously, he's not an impersonator. And it sounds like a yak back. Like, it sounds like it is so bad when, like, they're like, it's him and his brother, and it's like, do that impersonation of Dad. And then it's audibly Russell Crowe in a different room speaking into a different brand of microphone that might have been his cell phone. Where it's just like, it's this actor using like a lav mic and it's on-set sound. It's a lived-in room. It's a little echoey. It just kind of sounds like this, where it's like, hey, do you want to hear my impression of our dad?
Man is the only animal that it is that cannot be chased.
That's my impression of Dad. And I'm like, that was Russell Crowe absolutely eating a microphone in a sound studio. It didn't sound like it came from a human in a room. And this keeps happening where it's like, hey, do you want to hear my impression of Tony Bennett? And then it's just someone hitting play on like an MP3. And like he's doing the impression and like new instruments are coming out. I'm like, that's not.
You're playing a piano. The only thing on stage is a piano.
This is so fucking embarrassing. The sound design of this, it's really embarrassing.
It's embarrassing, and it's insane how often it comes up with no payoff.
Yes.
Like, it's not just like a once or twice thing that comes up. Like, every single scene Dimitri is in, he does the chameleon voice.
Well, they have to set up the future movies of the villain verse, you see. They're not going to pay it off now. But they're going to pay it off later, much like all of the other Spider characters in Madam Web. Yes, do they do anything now? No. Do they have a costume? Don't worry about it. Will we see it in the 9th Villainverse movie that doesn't exist? Absolutely.
Also, no. Speaking of Spider characters, I think one of my last dunks that I have to point out, which was just so like, oh, right, you have to make it part of the Spider-Verse, was when Kraven got shot with the hallucinogen, and they're like, and he'll see his greatest fears. And for some fucking reason, Kraven's greatest fear is spiders. I think just to make some spiders happen. So maybe if he meets Spider-Man in the future, he'll be like, I hate spiders. It's been established in canon that I don't like them.
And on top of that, not only is he fearing it, it then also does a sideways jump cut to his mom in an insane asylum being afraid of the spiders.
I can't emphasize enough how much spiders have never once come up in this movie before this point. I didn't see a spider. I never heard anyone say spider.
Yep.
Not a thing that came up. But it really felt very Madam Webby of you were in the
Amazon studying spiders
with my mom. I think he was there. And also I think that's more of similar to his backstory of how he usually gets his powers.
Oh. It really felt like something they were filming to use in a trailer to be like, look, it's spiders.
Oh,
what if he shows up in this one? He won't. What if he shows up? He won't. Yeah. Yeah.
So that killed me.
An
I mean,
absolute
every
mess.
dream sequence, like when he got his powers,
Of
and it was
course.
like the Frodo Lord of the Rings dream part, which is the only bad part of Lord of the Rings. It was just, all so terrible. Yeah, the spider showing up just threw me so hard. I'm like, oh, right, of course. We're legally contracted to have some spiders.
Yeah, but you also can't show or do anything.
But not explain why they're spiders.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't explain why there's spiders. You can't explain why Michael Keaton was in one movie.
No.
You can't explain why Sam Raimi's Spider-Man was spray painted on the wall of Morbius.
No, you can't
explain any of it.
You can't explain how any of it connects or why anyone's here.
You can't explain why you did a post-credit sequence of Venom where he was in the Spider-Man universe leaving his symbiote behind, but Marvel was like, we didn't want you to do that. Get out of here.
No one asked you to leave your symbiote behind.
And then you had to cancel it all and pretend like that didn't happen. Remember all that? Yeah.
That's how we'll remember the Sony Spider-Verse.
What a mess. Shall we go in for the close?
I'm ready to close it out. We're gonna close out the entire villainverse right now.
Goodbye.
This is the end of an era.
Sony, they were just starting to heat up. No one gave them time to cook, you know?
If only someone had given them a shot.
If only someone had 3 movies in a year is truly, they do make them.
It's crazy that they started cranking them out after like Venom 2, because Venom 2 wasn't nearly as good as 1.
Yeah.
And they were like, now we're
cooking.
It's Morbin time.
The fact that they're able to film them at this speed twice, because they're filming them and then clearly rewriting the entire thing and then refilming the entire thing.
They are really on a budget doing some stuff. Imagine if they just didn't refilm them and put out the first shitty version.
Just put out the first shitty version.
Because it's already shitty. Just put out the first shitty version.
Because we didn't really talk, but similar to Madam Web, a lot of scenes in this one is the back of someone's head clearly saying new lines of dialogue.
There's so much ADRing happening here. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Not just the chameleon's lines, but...
Well, let's go into the close. Let's ask the final question of what would you change. So now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this movie if you could change anything? Before we do ask that final question, we will remind you, as we do every week, please take a moment to rate, review, and subscribe on iTunes, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, wherever you might get your podcasts. It helps us move up the charts. It helps us find new listeners. It makes us feel really good. That's a cool thing to do. As well, if you do like watching podcasts, if you like vodcasts, as some people say, if they nasty. If they nasty.
Sorry that we just called you nasty, maybe.
Or you're welcome.
Oh, some people like it.
And we upload the videos of these now over on our YouTube page. It's youtube.com/@FromSuperheroes. So if you search From Superheroes, our page over there, you can hit subscribe and check out the videos of the podcasts that we upload. And as well, if you do want to support the podcast monetarily, you can do that over on Patreon, which is a monthly subscription service. You can subscribe at whatever is in your budget. Get cool bonuses for doing so, like you can get our webcomic early. You can also get these episodes early and ad-free, so you could be listening to this on a Thursday as opposed to the Monday. And then also we have, at the $10 level, you can get an exclusive bonus episode of this podcast every single month. This month, our exclusive episode was on Secret Level, the Amazon anthology series.
Yes, it was very fun. So every month you get an extra episode, but you also immediately get access to the back catalog. So you can get our Secret Level episode this month, but you can also get like 70 or 80 old episodes, and everything tiers down. So at the $10 level, you still get the $3 early and ad-free episode. You still get the early release text from superheroes. It's a really good bang for your buck.
Yeah, you can sign up at the yearly level and get 1 month for free as well,
really
which
nice
is an option. So you can do yearly, monthly, whatever's in your budget, different levels, different bonuses. You can cancel or change on any given month or year, depending on what you subscribe at. So cool options. Check it all out and everything that we offer over at the Patreon page. Patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. That is patreon.com/FromSuperheroes. And now let's go in for the close. Let's ask the final question. Now that we've discussed everything we've discussed, what would you change about this if you could change anything? Diana, what would you change?
My change is going to be we almost need like none. I mean, like, God, it's easier to say what you'd keep. Like, just keep the action scenes with Aaron Taylor Johnson. Like, this is all going in the trash. If I must make a change, I'm torn because I don't think you need any of the flashbacks at all. I don't think they add anything. I think you can just be like, he's got powers, have a throwaway line about it. I'm going to also say, just to move things along faster, because this relationship with Calypso also makes no sense. He never explains how he even finds her after a childhood.
There's so many deleted scenes.
There's so many deleted scenes, but she also literally says, I went to school in New York and then moved to London. They just went to school in New York together before he moved to London. They were friends as children, and he's like, hey, I'm going to go to London, see my brother, and also my old friend from school also lives there, sees her. I don't care how he got his powers. I don't give a shit. I just want this movie to be over faster, so I'm cutting out scenes. So I'm cutting out his childhood. I'm cutting out meeting Calypso. We don't need that. He already knows her from school in New York. That's why all our accents are equally weird. That's why all of us have no distinct accent of the three main characters. And that's probably going to be like all you need. There's so much more you can change. I guess if I was the Rhino and I had kidnapped someone's brother so I could set a trap for him, I might tell that man where to find his brother. The fact that Kraven just can't find him over and over again is so dumb. If you're going to lay a trap, you got to tell him where to go. So I changed that as well. I would not go fight Kraven on his own ground, you dummy.
Yeah, they had a random, like, MI6 cop who gets killed, who gives misinformation to Cleo to pass on to Kraven.
But then he goes to like the monastery where they did have a trap laid for him. But then
you
they
could've
decide
just told Kraven where to go.
Then they decide to go to Russia to try to kill Kraven on his own ground. I'm like, a worse place doesn't exist to try to kill Kraven. Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna tell the guy whose brother you kidnapped where he is. Set a trap that way, and we're just going to cut so many scenes out of this movie. Andrew, what would you change in Kraven?
Nice. I like that. I'm on board for so much of that. I agree. Flashbacks, gone.
Get out of here.
Flashbacks, gone. They really keep setting up this list, which is never a thing in the movie. They're like, once you're on Kraven's list, you can never get off. He has a list. Watch out for his list. The list. And we
full Santa Claus.
And we open with the full Santa Claus. He's got a list. And we open with the scene in Russia where he's like, I killed a bad guy, an arms dealer. And that led me to a couple other names of who this guy works with. And clearly it is this like, I'm hunting bad people and working my way up the chain and adding names on the list of like, who is the person ordering around this arms dealer and this human trafficker and this other bad person and this other bad person, until it should be eventually he gets to his dad. As opposed to what the movie is right now, where it just kind of ends with them sitting down and Russell Crowe being like, yeah, it was kind of me the whole time. You didn't know. Here we are. Like, no, it should be like, I'm hunting bad people. This is what I do. And I do it because I want to do good things. And my dad was an asshole growing up. And he discovers, I think the kids as a kid should not know that their dad is a mobster.
I think that makes sense, especially because since none of them, like Dmitri clearly wasn't going to inherit, and also Sergei leaves so early that he wouldn't have found out yet that he was a mobster.
Yeah, because the movie sets it up that as kids, they're both like, our dad's a mobster. That's cool.
We know that.
Oh, well, and then Kraven becomes a hunter hunting bad people, and it never is a conflict in any way. I think they shouldn't know when they're kids that their dad's a mobster. And it's a little trite, it's a little over the plate, but this movie could use a little bit more of that to be like, hey, I don't really know what my dad's deal was, but I never liked him. Now I hunt bad people. Oh my God, it's led me to my dad. He sucks really badly.
I will take over the plate over doesn't make sense any day of the week.
So that's my big change. They don't know that their dad's a mobster, or especially, our main Kraven doesn't. And he is hunting and following this list to look for the ultimate bad guy until he finds his dad.
Dun, dun, dun. I like that change a lot.
Yep.
I like that it puts Russell Crowe in the movie like in a more kind of like deeper way instead of just being on the periphery the whole time.
And let's have him be the one who made the Rhino. Why the Rhino? They're setting up the Spider-Man character, the Jackal, as a scientist in New York who makes the Rhino and the Chameleon. Just have the dad be like, I like going on wild hunts, so I'm a crazy rich person who likes going on wild hunts, and I made the Rhino as a fun thing to hunt. And Kraven's like, that's fucked up. I don't like that you did that. You're the main villain. My dad.
Okay. See, I was thinking Rhino should have been like a person who got rhino blood in their open wound. But he was actually genuinely trying to emulate Kraven's powers. Because he doesn't have the super soldier serum.
Oh, that's interesting too.
But
that's
I
simple.
like yours as well.
I know. It's all simple. Yeah,
it's all fun. Our ideas are good.
Our ideas are good. Yeah. What a mess. What a mess.
Farewell.
Farewell.
Sony Villainverse.
Sony Villainverse,
You were something. You sure did exist.
You weren't deleted for tax credits.
I won't be surprised in a couple years if I can't find a way to watch you.
Yeah.
If like not available on DVD, not streaming anywhere, that won't surprise me. But
Yeah.
you weren't deleted.
Yeah.
You might just not be archived in the future.
Fun. Well, that's going to do it for us, for Kraven, for the Sony Villainverse. We are going to be back next week, and next week we're going to be talking about Sonic 3.
Oh, Sonic, please end the year well for us. Please be nice to us, Sonic. We need this.
Ben Schwartz, my boy, be
Ben
good.
Schwartz, Keanu Reeves, Idris Elba, Jim Carrey, please. We need this. James Marsden, even. James Marsden, please.
Fucking all of you, be good to me, my boys.
Be nice to us.
We've got to end the year strong. So we'll be back next week talking about Sonic 3. In the meantime, if you want to get a hold of us, you can find me most places, including Blue Sky now. I am at Ivamy, IVIMEY.
You can find me at Words of Diana on Blue Sky and Tumblr, Pics of Diana on Instagram.
And you can find both of us most places at From Superheroes, and you can find everything that we create over on our website, fromsuperheroes.com. And we'll talk to y'all next week.
Bye.